Okay. Good evening. Today is Wednesday, January 24th. The time is 7 o'clock. Welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item of business is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Let the roll reflect that all members are present, excluding members Redmond and Miller. Was this meeting properly notified?
Yes, it was, and as a reminder.
Oh, and sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And Trudell.
Yes, it's properly noticed, and as a reminder, it's being recorded.
All right. Welcome visitors. Is there any public comment at this time? No. So we'll move on to highlight on news and esports with coaches Dan Rude and Travis Madigan. Welcome.
Hi. Hi.
Thanks for coming.
So we do have one more youth coming shortly. Yeah, and another coach as well.
I don't know why it's not switching. It says switching and then it doesn't switch.
You know anybody knows technology? I'll reply. Perfect timing.
You could email it to me, maybe.
Yeah, I can share it with Greg. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's recognizing that plugin or that plugin, but for some reason, not that one.
Yes, I did. You guys some technological issues? Yeah, IT issue. All right, is there another plug you wanted to go to, Tim? I'll just share it with you as well.
Yeah, maybe try that one right there, please.
Just have another HDMI.
Won't you use this? Yep. Should it say finance or what?
This one doesn't say, there's no one.
Yeah.
So I guess
Email it to me, please.
I shared it with you.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So that even though this was working. Fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, look at this. Off to a great start. What's wrong about this?
There we go.
All right. So I'm Dan Rude. I'm our head esports coach for our high school program. I'm with our other fellow coaches.
Travis Madigan, one of the counselors at the high school, and Michael Becker, school psychologist at the high school.
So we're going to run over a little bit about the high school esports program. We've got 3 of our athletes here today. They're going to talk about the impact and how it's impacted them and what the positives are of our program. So this is our first year. We're part of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association. So we kind of gave a temporary run at the end of last year where we had over 29 students coming in the spring to participate. And then now we're full blown in competition against other schools our same size across the entire state. Tim, if you'd be able to click to the next slide. So just a little background. So we had an interest survey put out last year where we had 41 students in our high school. So that includes last year's seniors that indicated their interest in participating in esports. Last spring, we had 29 students regularly attend more of an open gym format where we had our 13 computers open up. They can come in, they can team up and play any of the 7 titles that we play throughout the year. And then in this fall, we played Super Smash Brothers, where we had 23 athletes signed up and registered to be part of our team. Currently, we have 34 students in our winter season, and at this moment, we have 18 additional signed up for our spring. We're anticipating at least five to 10 more to sign up for spring. We haven't even held a spring meeting yet, so some of them don't even know what the titles are, or don't even know what's going to happen for that season. So we've definitely, so far, again, we're 2/3 through our inaugural season, and there's excessive interest. We have, with last year's budget as well as this year's athletic budget, we've been able to purchase 15 and build 15 gaming computers. So we have 15 computers that can run all of the titles that we play. We have over 34 students that are interested. A number of them practice from home and come in for competitions because it's part of the WSA's regular bylaws is you have to be on site to compete to make sure there's not any shenanigans going on. So we have students, some students can't practice at home, so they come in and we have students that are bouncing through. So you might play one game and they have to sit, and another student has to log in, get into their accounts, and they get to play a game. So we're trying to do the best we can with the equipment that we have to try to get as much as our interested students in to play and get as much seat time as we can. With that being said, they're really good about playing when they're not in school. We have many students that have thousands of hours in some of the games that we're playing. So they have plenty of time to do that on their own, but it's what we're trying to do is bring them in and talk about teamwork and appropriate communication and leadership and willing to take feedback and what constructive criticism is, both how to give it to other individuals as well as how to receive it. So having those students in and those athletes in is definitely one of the most important things that we're trying to maintain.
Yeah, the growth we saw in the fall was pretty big in some of our kids, just from taking their first loss and storming out and just reacting and then coming back and talking through it, growing to the end of the season. That student ended up being our captain, just completely turned around and
so I mentioned some of the seasons we're in from fall. We were in Super Smash Brothers. We have a varsity as well as a JV. So our varsity competes in Division II. They were the #1 seeded team going into playoffs. We had an undefeated regular season, and we were unfortunately upset the first round of playoffs. Again, huge learning experience for a lot of those students. They've never been in a situation like that. That was kind of the most intense that any of them have ever played for a game in their life. So it's how do you work your way through that, which was really huge. We had 29 athletes that signed up that were either on our varsity or our JV Super Smash Brothers team in the fall. And then we have 3 different titles we run in the winter. So we have Rocket League. Our varsity team is currently in Division II, is ranked #1 in their part of the state or their pool. And then our JV is 4-1. Right now we have 1 more week in regular season, so there's a very good chance that our varsity Rocket League will be ranked #1 for Division II. Again, giving them a higher seed for playoffs, which then increases their chance to make it to state. The state tournament is all held in person at a college, so all the teams from across the state that are in that title come together, and there's a big arena that they play in. So there's some good pomp and circumstance for them. And I'm guessing some jitters and some nerves will be, again, some of this, we have traditional athletes that are part of our esports team, as well as some students that have never been in any type of competitive thing ever. So we have 8 athletes that are in our Rocket League.
and to quantify the Rocket League, especially like in terms of the game, like these kids are operating at like NFL level. Like some of the kids, the game has an internal ranking system that ranks you in the world, and one of them in particular is extremely gifted in the sport. Like could potentially go professional if he chose to.
He's top like 6% in the world, which is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Then we do have Overwatch 2. Again, we have a varsity and a JV for that. Our varsity team is tied for first in their pool, so they're undefeated. We have 13 athletes. One thing that's interesting about our Overwatch 2, how they have it set up, is all levels play together. So our JV has been playing varsity teams all year. And our varsity team has been playing varsity teams and some JV teams. So it's very difficult to kind of rank and level the Overwatch title. So everyone's kind of thrown in the same pool.
Because they not run this title previous to this year.
Yeah, this is the first year that they've run, that we saw us actually run a full season with Overwatch.
So they'll get stratified in the playoffs based on their rankings into 3 different tiers. Our school will. I should
Correct,
say.
yeah, they'll take all of our, however we finish, and they'll take the top 33% will go into one pool. They'll be considered Division 1, the middle will be Division 2, and the bottom 33% of everyone will be in Division 3. So all of our teams will make playoffs for that. Similar to in basketball, all of our team makes playoff, and then will be seeded appropriately from there.
And the leg up those kids have is that they were playing together all of last year when we were doing open gym. Overwatch 2 was supposed to be a fall title, and it ended up getting pushed to winter. So we've had groups of 5 playing together for at this point almost over a year. And it has definitely shown because they haven't faced anybody that can even stand up to them yet. So that's my game. So.
It's super tough.
And then for our third title for the winter is Fortnite. We have 17 different athletes that are participating in Fortnite. We have 4 different teams. So we have a team that plays, they all play at 3:30. So we have 4 guys that are on a team on Tuesday, another 4 that play on Wednesday, another 4 that play on Thursday, and then we have another one that has 5 players on their team on Friday. But out of your entire team, you can only select 3 people to play that week. So one person is, 1 or 2 people will rotate throughout. And we have, again, you mentioned in Rocket League some high ranked players. We have some pretty skilled players in Fortnite too.
They play in tournaments on their own, and I mean they win. They're winning money playing this. Just like they're very gifted as well. And the cool part too that we've noticed on their own without our doing, they've actually ended up connecting with other kids in their lobbies from other schools. So they're at the point now where they see their gamer tags in game and they know who that is because they're connecting with them outside of this.
And then the last component that we've been really focusing on too is our live streaming. So our students produce, do the announcing for all of our games. So we live stream them to our Twitch TV channel. We have 14 individual students that have either done the announcing component or have worked on the production component where they do everything from creating the transitions to adjusting the audio to making sure that the connection, the wiring is all set up. Like they set up everything for us. They do 5 days a week because we play on Monday, we play on Tuesday, we play on Wednesday, we play on Thursday, we play on Friday. So this group of kids, they are working almost harder than some of the people that are doing that are actually playing the games to make sure that everything's up to date and actually presented in a professional manner. Like they have a script, they know how to thank all their sponsors. It's their job to let parents or a lot of the people watching our streams, let the parents know what the game is. Because a lot of the parents are like, I don't know, he's just running around and there's a lot of people going like, I don't understand it. So it's their job to break it down and help the general public understand what the game is, as well as introduce who all the players are, both for us as well as our opponent, depending on the title. So that's kind of a brief overview of what we're taking care of. But right now, we want to be done talking and we want to let our students talk here for a little bit. So guys, if you want to stand up, if you'd be willing to introduce yourselves, your name and also what grade you're in. And then if you want to just what is
I don't know how far up you want. Okay. I'm Brennan. I'm a senior, and I mainly focus on the live streaming part of our sports team. I also play Overwatch and Rocket League.
I'm Rose. I'm a senior here at SCC, and I kind of do a bit of the production side. I also played 1 game of Smash because I had the second best attendance out of everyone. So they just kind of put me in for the last game. Didn't do too well. They don't play it, but it was a lot of fun. And I also play on the JV Rocket team.
I'm Carter, and I'm on the Fortnite team, and I was on the Smash team.
I mean, all of this esports stuff is, like they said, like it's our first year really doing this, and it's my first time seeing like how many people in our school are really interested in all this gaming, like equipment and the style of games and just everything that it has to offer. I've made some good connections through my working with the live streaming and just making sure things are up to date, keeping an eye on everybody, making sure they're doing what they need to do. Along with all this live streaming stuff, there comes like a bunch of equipment for everybody else, specifically their headsets and like all their audio. So we help with a lot of the audio for them as well if things go wrong.
I've kind of been designated the kind of either lurker or just team cheerleader because I spend more time sitting around watching people play games and cheering them on than actually playing the game. But it's been a lot of fun being able to like interact with these people with some games that I kind of know a bit about, like Fortnite. Don't play it. Know a little bit about it. I can talk to them and have a conversation, or with Smash and Rocket League, and soon to be Valorant season in spring. So, anything you want to?
Esports is really the only thing that has interest me in school. So,
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Are any of you gonna do this after, like after you graduate? Are you gonna continue it on after you graduate?
I mean, I want to. I'd love to. If I get the ability to, I definitely will. But the cost of it is usually something that's a big hurdle for some people. That's why we only have so many computers, of course, because they're so expensive. But I mean, it's a great chance for me and everybody else in the esports team to try something new and see if it's something we'd want to do in the future.
I know I will be continuing to do this onto college because my college that I'm going to actually does have an esports program, which is going to be a lot of fun seeing how much better a college team is compared to a bunch of high schoolers who know like video games. Makes us like it.
So how many programs are there in the state now?
At the end of last year, there was 155. Yeah, and we've noticed even from in the fall to the winter, there's probably 5 or 6 at least additional teams. Ellsworth started a team for the winter. They did not have one in the spring, or sorry, in the fall, or one last year. So at least there's another additional local team, but it's continually growing. Like the president of our association goes to like all of the tech conferences in the state, and he's trying to push it as much as he can to let people understand what it's about. I know there's a number of schools in our same situation where they're doing like a trial year where they may not compete competitively, but they're doing more scrimmages against other schools to see if there is interest or can they support it. So I know there's a number of schools doing that as well. But as of the end of last year, it was 155.
So 400 and some schools in the state? 432, I think.
It's only growing in the college world. Yes,
I read an article. There's certain, like a scholarship
absolutely.
players. And,
Oh yeah,
We weren't even
All I
considering
go to actually
yeah.
find them.
Yep.
2,000 if I get it. Well, that'd be great.
Travis, we have 34 in this winter, right?
Yes.
How many of the 34 would you say have been involved in any sports activity or school activity of 34? 30?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's probably only a handful, like literally 5 who've been involved in other sports. I know we have a couple who are currently dual athletes, like we have a kid who's in wrestling actively and also during winter season playing Fortnite. We also have a small group of kids who are in the musical. Other than that, I mean, the vast majority, probably upwards of 28 of our kids this season, previous to now, were not in any school activities or sports.
Anybody want to demonstrate a Fortnite dance?
Oh,
Neither of us play Fortnite.
Love it. That's awesome.
Did you have any other questions about stuff for us or for athletes?
And a big shout out to our coaches too. Zach's not here, the 4th coach, but when we kind of set this up and started doing this, there's 3 seasons. There's a fall, a winter, and a spring season, and we had them interested in. They all decided to kind of pool the stipends and divide it out equally, so all 4 of them are around and help out. And again, just having role models that are all working in our school and teachers and education background around our kids is pretty incredible. making a pretty big impact on the kids that are in our esports team. So pretty awesome job by our coaches too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
You
did.
Thank you.
No,
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 7, comments by board members and superintendent. We've got the referendum update first.
Really not a lot to update on other than things are going well and the big CT additions are slated to be completely finished by May. So that's a good thing. And then all the internal remodeling will happen over the summer. So that'll be the tight window there to get things done. But, yeah, still on time, actually ahead of schedule and under budget.
We can move on to report on the WASB state convention. Josh, Lance, myself, and Tim went last week down to Milwaukee.
It's certainly an opportunity to learn from other districts and the good and the bad and kind of both sides of the coin and what's worked and hasn't worked. And, sometimes there's not a right or wrong, but it's a very good learning experience and kind of gives you a lot of ideas to prep and prepare for all kinds of different things that other districts have encountered.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, the mini seminars that you go to are interesting how they lay things out and how other people are doing it. And so, yeah, it was good. Covey was good.
Yeah, Covey was really good.
Yeah, it was very good.
All good.
Okay, we'll move on to our board development meeting that was scheduled for February 18th. We spoke with Lee when we were down at the convention, and he suggested that we wait until April after election, since we're so close to election time, maybe use our resources after to welcome the new number of members and just kind of focus then. So that's what we decided, if everybody's okay with that. So we'll cancel that meeting, and then the next one is April 28th. Am I right? Was that date? Okay. Okay, so moving on to scheduled presentations by guests and staff members. We have Brock and Sarah of Clifton Larson Allen LLP to present school audit report. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm Brock Guyon. I'm the partner in charge of our annual external audit. Got Sarah here with me tonight. She's going as in charge of the day-to-day, oversees the crew. We're up here to see you guys and bring it to fruition. Realizing, well, to some, the audit is as exciting as esports. Not everybody's opinion, so we'll try to keep it short and entertaining as possible. But when you walk through, hopefully I do see a couple copies here, a 2-page handout. I do see the books. I'm going to stay away from the books unless you want me to dig into it and have questions on it. But let's go through some highlights in the handout. And the way that works is we start with some of our opinions first, and then we'll get into the numbers. So I'll cover the first part, and then Sarah's going to walk you through the numbers. So I'm not sure it's going to get on screen there or not, but we'll dive in. So the first part of that handout, top where it says item number 1, auditor's report. What that says is you've received an unmodified opinion. That's what you strive to achieve. Means I didn't have to qualify the wording in your report because of something normally would be negative in connotation, right? So everything is good. All the amounts and the disclosures are proper and materially right in that booklet. We do issue a management letter. There's 2 things on there that we list. So you'll find this at the very, very back of the booklet. There's a section called Schedule of Findings. These 2 things that we do report are very, very common. We report them probably in all of our schools, and there's usually an additional 1 or 2 additional. So, and there's one actually as an auditor, I feel a little bad because the second one there, material audit adjustments. We report that if we propose any adjustments to your books. And here we had 2. It's very, very few. And of course, I'm doing my job, I'm reporting it. And one was related to a debt premium, and the other one's a small entry for Fund 150 activity. So it's a standard if, the standards say if we propose adjustments. We put it in there. So just be aware of that, very, very minimal. The other one, limited segregation of duties. We talk about this every year. Should not be new to the board here, but of course you haven't hired enough people, in our opinion, to segregate all the responsibilities in your accounting department. Wouldn't expect you to do so. The largest companies in the world have a hard time doing it. So you do what you can with the controls you have. The board, as a board, you have the responsibility for oversight, certain approvals, things of that nature. So keep doing your job there, and we don't have anything specific to report that's negative, no fraud or error as a result of the situation. That's the good news. It's just the reality of where you live with the number of people you have. So capable people doing multiple responsibilities, that's what you end up with there. So hopefully that one makes sense. We do have a section here on compliance. That's where we're reviewing state and federal grants for the most part. We didn't find any compliance findings there, so nothing to report of that nature. And then the last part of section 1 just lists out a few other things that we do for the district here. Maybe just mention this last one quick because it was new. So GASB 96, new reporting standard, don't necessarily need to know the details of it, but what it covers is subscription-based IT agreements. So as a district, not something we'd have to audit before in the past and report on. And so when we looked into it, it was interesting. You guys have 42 contracts that you flushed out of your system that you signed, at least in play for fiscal year 23. So that's a lot of different IT subscription agreements. So we have to look through all those to see, well, do any of them apply and have to be reported in your financial statements? And we concluded at the end that either they were all short-term or not material to the financials. So we didn't have to, make that book 4 pages longer than it already is. But just know you do have these things that are going to have to be reviewed now going forward annually, just anything new, basically, if you have new agreements in place. So, a lot of them are short-term, so they're going to be revolving. Last year was leases. This year was bid agreements. Then I'll turn it over to Sarah.
First fund we'll talk about is the general fund. That accounts for your everyday operations of the district that aren't required to be restricted somewhere else. The general fund in here in our presentation includes Fund 10 and Fund 27. They're combined together there. So you'll just notice there we do a little bit more detail on the general fund than we do the other ones going forward. But you'll see your assets of the general fund increased. That was just mainly due to, one was the increase in the taxes receivable, and then the other one was related to the due from other governments, which was mainly attributed to the increase in your ESSER funds that you got. So the grant claim at the end of the grant claims at the end of the year or more. Then we have your payables. You'll notice that increased as well, and that was just mainly due to your accrued liabilities, accrued payroll liabilities. They're related to wage increases, more staff, etc. Then the next part there is your fund balance. So you have the non-spendable fund balance, which is tied to your prepaid expense shown up there underneath the assets. This year you have a restricted fund balance, and this is related to your common schools, unspent common school funds. So you received that grant aid, but you didn't spend it all. So we're required.
That was the kids.
Oh, the kids getting ahead.
Yeah.
Getting ahead.
Yes.
That was it. I think that'll be the one. But,
yeah.
DBI required you to restrict that if they hadn't been spent. So then your unassigned fund balance, you'll see that that has increased from the prior year. That was mainly due to your change in your fund balance. You had more revenues coming in than what your expenses were. Then we also do a calculation of your unassigned fund balance to your expenses. And you'll see that this year you're at 17%. Your fund balance policy is between 17 and 19%. So you are within your fund balance policy that the district has adopted. We do like to see that maybe around 25%, but there's no, you don't really have a reason to make any other recommendations for now because you guys are in good financial shape. And then you'll also see that historically you have been right in that 17% for the last few years. So then your revenue is about But your revenues had increased, and again, that was just related to your taxes, more taxes, and then your increase in your state and federal aids that you received. So go to the next page. Unless you had any questions on that so far. I think the next item there is the special revenue funds. These funds are used to account for specific revenues that have expenditure restrictions on them. So your first one there is your education trust fund. That is used to account for your student activity fund and your scholarships. So there wasn't really a change in that from last year. Your food service fund, that one did have a decrease in your fund balance, and that was just mainly due to the not getting as much federal aid as you had in the past. You received more federal aid last year because all students were receiving free meals and breakfast in there, so you were able to get more grant funding, and this year they had to start paying for it, and so probably more students are more students had to start paying for their meals, so unless they qualified for free or reduced lunch. And then the next one is your community service fund. There wasn't really much of a change there from the prior year either. The next one is your debt service fund. This is used to account for your activity for your principal, interest, and other debt service related fees. This year you did have an increase in your fund balance, and it was mainly attributed to your you levied more in that fund than what your principal and interest payments were, but it's there to cover future debt interest payments. You did have issued debt or general obligation refunding bonds in the amount of $19,925 this year, and that was to refund your $20 million ban that you had out there for your construction project. The next ones are your capital projects fund. The district has two. You have a capital project fund, which is currently active, and that's accounting for the capital projects that you have, the high school project, the elementary improvements, the 4K building, and stuff. So last year you guys had issued debt for $20 million to cover those costs, and then in 22-23 you did another $10 million. Cover those costs. So you'll see that you have quite a bit of unspent debt proceeds there, but as that project keeps moving forward, you'll be spending down those dollars. And the other one is your capital improvement trust fund. So years ago, you'll approve to establish this Fund 46. The resources for that would come from like the general fund. You could set money inside there. You created a capital improvements plan, and then you had to wait 5 years in order to spend those funds. You guys have met that, but you just haven't contributed to it. I mean, the only thing that you're earning is a little bit of interest on it. So. Then the next item is your long-term obligations. And this is just a summary of the different long-term obligations that the district has as of 6/30/23. Again, your bonds increased, but that was because you issued the $19 million. And then your general obligation promissory note, you had issued another $10,000 there for the capital projects. And then we have your bond, your notes payable finance purchases. In the past, those were always your capital leases. And now if you're going to take ownership of the equipment, it becomes a finance purchase. And that was a standard that was changed last year. And then there's a summary there of your Wisconsin retirement and your OPEB and your other pension liabilities. Then we do a calculation of your general obligation debt to see what your equalized value was, and then your 10% limit on that. So you're have like 46.7% remaining that you would be eligible to take and still meet your debt limit. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
What caused the flip on the pension liability line?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that'll flip. I think the last time you saw it'll show positive on here, which is a little counterintuitive because we're listing out all your liabilities down here in this whole section. So it actually went from an asset that you've been tracking for, I think, 4 years. Before that, it was a liability. So the WRS program that's administered by the state, that's an indication whether it's fully funded or underfunded. So when it's a liability, that means it's not quite fully funded, which is the case here at June 30th, 23. So it swung from the year prior, and that thing will swing $3-4 billion in any given year. So that's what happened there. It's kind of a timing issue. There's a lot of actuarial assumptions that go into there as well. So basically what we do and what all districts in the state do, all participants for that matter, whether you're county or city or whatnot, we take the information that is provided by the administrator and their actuaries and we roll it in for your portion. So that's what that represents. If they were to hold up the program at that point in time, you'd have to come up with funding for your portion of the overall multi-billion-dollar plan, which is $3.5 million to fund the benefits that your former employees have earned and will get in retirement. So again, last year was an asset. This year it's a liability. Could swing either, again next year, but it's all market factors and participation.
State pension fund,
Yes.
not just a school.
Yes, correct. The last two in this section, those are your local benefits that you offer, that you approved as a board and as part of the employee contracts. Yeah, WRS, that one is a state plan.
Got it.
Is there any more questions? Are you good? Okay. All right.
We don't need approval, correct, Jim?
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah.
All right, up next is a pupil non-discrimination report by Director of Teaching and Learning, Diesel.
Hello. Let's see if this.
Right again. No, I can just run it off.
Okay.
Here.
So linked in the board agenda.
Yeah.
There are two documents. You should have actual exhibit 8B is going to be the actual recorded link. Yep. So that's the actual report that we will house here and that will be on our webpage. And then the other document, which is what I'm going to go through, quick slideshow, is just the kind of the big takeaways from this. So if you wanted to go into the pupil non-discrimination self-evaluation report itself, that's where you're going to get all the detailed information. But before I even start with going through what's in this, I just really want to make sure that everybody here knows that this was a very collaborative project. I might be the one standing up here talking to you about this, but this was a lot of work, a lot of data gathering from a lot of people to make this get done. It's a pretty big undertaking. My first time doing this report. And so it wouldn't have gone nearly as smoothly without a couple of the folks sitting back here and a lot of other people submitting things as well. So I did not have to go in and do all of this myself. So that was very, very nice. All right, so pupil non-discrimination. This is not a new report. This is something that has been around for quite a while, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a history lesson on non-discrimination. So I'm not going to go through each of those bullets, but you can see that non-discrimination and the legality of it has been around for quite a while. The last time that it was actually mandated to be changed was 1991 when we added religion And I was kind of digging into this a little bit. I thought it was very interesting that 1983 was the first time that discrimination for school-aged mothers or pregnant students was even considered. It just seems like that would be something that's just common practice, but again, thinking about the times and the changes and all of that. So it's interesting to see the evolution of non-discrimination over the years. This roadmap of PI 9.06, and actually I'm going to go back to the last one. It talks about the state statute 118.13. That you'll see is on the title page for the non-discrimination report, as is this PI 9.06. Both of those are state statutes that have been around for quite a while and are still legally doctrined today. The PI 9.06 is the piece of non-discrimination that requires us to evaluate our programs. So you can see the PI 9.06 is relatively new. 1989 is when the first one was required by school districts. And at that point, you can see it's compliance-based. Are you doing it? Are you not? And somebody really at that point could have said, yep, we're doing it, checking the box. There was no needs assessment along with it. It was just are you doing it or are you not? And you can see through the history how it's become more and more in depth. Speaking with a few folks that had done this report the last time it was due was 2017. It's every 5 years, by the way. 2017, who had written it in the past, and it changes with every district who was, I guess, responsible for putting it all together. They had stated that quite a bit had been added since 2017. What we added, you can see on the last bullet there, this time was board policies. So you'll notice in the report, all of our board policies that are related to non-discrimination are linked in there. So that anybody who comes to leisurely read through this document or wants to see it, they're all there so they don't have to go and look at the website. Board policies, enrollment trends. So this is becoming more significant in our district with our EL population, our English language population. They're one of the groups that we look at with all of this data. Disciplinary trends, another big one, especially when you're talking about race. Southern parts of Wisconsin have a significant discrepancy. We do not here. Technology accessibility, huge, especially since 2020 when COVID and everybody went to virtual learning or tried to make these learning continue at what we hoped was a somewhat same pace as what they were getting in school, but having that accessibility to not only internet access, but also devices that aren't necessarily shared. We know lots of kids share phones with parents, but that's not a device that would be solely used for education. So looking at that, and then what are the school district efforts to achieve equality if it's not there? So that's the big difference is we take all of this data, we look at what our policies are, we look at what our buildings are doing, and then we see if there's a gap and if there's something additional that we need to do to make those gaps get smaller. Major findings. First and foremost, no formal complaints in any category. So that's obviously the greatest news. We do have some discrepancies in student groups. However, they're not large. In order to have a major discrepancy, you need a larger number of some of the populations that we don't have. We don't have huge discrepancies in race here. Our EL population is getting bigger, but it's not big enough to give a non-volatile discrepancy from year to year. So normally you look at these rates and you go 5%. Anything bigger than a 5% difference between whatever category you're looking at, whether it's English proficient students compared to those students that are not English proficient, anything more than 5% would be considered a big gap. But again, our numbers are too small. We'd be volatile every year depending on the numbers that would change. So largest gap that was noticed was the technology accessibility for our EL students, and that was self-reported. on the survey that families have to take in the Skyward system for enrollment every year. You've probably done it if you have kids in the buildings right now. You have to say, do you have internet at home? Do you have access to a device? Is it shared? And those kinds of things. The great thing about this is we have hotspots and devices for all of our students that don't. So in the plan, you can see that one of the suggestions to make this less, if we were to give the survey again, is to communicate with our families. This is available to you. You might not have it at home, but we will provide it for you. So that's one of the things that we talked about. And the last slide is overall picture. So we had to go through, you can see if you take a look at this later, there's quite a few categories. The table of contents has 12 different things listed there. You can see on the second page, the summary of the specific legal requirements. That's not on the slide here, but in the actual document of what we had to collect and what we had to do with it. So in this, these are the big 6 areas that we had to go through and look at student groups. So when I say student groups, we're looking at gender, so males and females. We're looking at students with disabilities. We're looking at our EL population. And I think I hit all of them. We did not have to go into religion because those aren't things that we ask here. We did not go into specific racial disparities because again, we don't have high enough numbers for that to be a discrepancy. So enrollment, this is just something that, you know, it's informational, but if we were really to look into enrollment, are we losing enrollment in certain categories of students? And again, we're not. We have a slight decrease from last year. I put some notes down here. Even though we had a decrease, we still have our virtual school, from when I put it up, I think it's 312. So when I originally put the data in, it was 18, or let me see, this is 1909 was the school district, and we were 1880 when I first printed the report. Most of those are from the virtual school. And we have had some students actually graduate already, early graduated this January. Board policies, again, they're all linked in here. Our procedure right now is just to make sure that those are being reviewed, like you have all of the policies on there this afternoon, or it's 7:30 this evening, to go through. So that's really what we need to continue doing. And prior to this, years ago, did not have to be done. Discipline, this is a big one, like I said, across the state, especially between Blacks and white students. And we have no significant gaps in any of the areas, students with disabilities compared to students without disabilities, which is probably the second biggest area of students being expelled or suspended. And we have extremely low numbers at all 3 buildings. And you know why we have that. It's because relationships are key here. It's number one. And you can just see that because the numbers are lower than pretty much anywhere I've ever seen. So it's a good thing. Athletics, extracurriculars, and connectedness. So one of the things that the team did to collect all this information, because we know if a student is on an athletic team, but it's hard to get all that information with new things like esports. So at all of the buildings, they send out a student survey. They put everything that they're listed. We cross-check, we cross-reference, we go through and put down whether the student is economically disadvantaged, do they have a disability. But those are things that we have to kind of do because we're not going to ask a student that they wouldn't know it likely. But the biggest piece of this is that trusted adult in their buildings. Every single building had in the high 90s as far as whether they had a trusted adult, which could be a coach, could be a teacher. But I just loved that these 3 coaches came and talked about the fact that there's all but 4. This is their thing. That's amazing. Those kids wouldn't have been on there before. And that would have been possibly one of those things that we would have looked at. Is there a discrepancy? How can we get these kids to be in things? Because we know when they're in things, they're staying in school, right? So technology, talked about that a little bit. Last sentence of that is key communication is key to making sure our families are aware of everything that we have. We have 3 amazing EL instructors in our district. Haley Hartman, Laura Fernweber, and Luisa Rena Yavorskaya, I think is I have to catch myself every time I say it, but they're amazing, and the communications that they have with our families is second to none. They will reach out to them. Anything that teachers need in their classrooms, they are translating. They're putting on the website. They're doing as much as they possibly can to make sure that families, all families for EL, get the information that they need and that it makes sense to them. Same thing goes with our students with disabilities. I have a son with an IEP who graduated last year. You get that packet. If you've ever had that packet sent to you, it's thick. And if you don't know what you're reading, you know, even as an educator, I have to go, okay, I'm going to read through this again. If you're not an educator, we take the time for students with disabilities, Leah and our special education teachers and our principals, making sure that when parents are going through that process, they know what it means. So that's the overall picture. I think that was my last slide for that. With this, it again will go on our website. We have to send paper mail, snail mail, an assurance that says that we looked at all the data, that if we had discrepancies or gaps, that we had plans of how we were going to fix them or improve them. And even without big gaps, every single one of these categories was talked about. The whole admin team looked at it, read through it, gave suggestions to not only just improve, but to help me learn what are we doing. So it was a lot of great learning. Any questions?
Is the technology thing, the hotspot device, is that a little cost or no cost to them? How does that work?
I believe it's free. I believe it's free.
No cost to them.
And how many do we have? Was it 40?
No, we have like 120.
And that's from prior.
Actually, I was just
During
talking,
COVID.
yeah, we got them all
Yeah.
when COVID first came out. And I was just talking to Chad earlier, I think it's like around 120. He said that we are not utilizing all of them. So we were thinking of maybe terminating some of those contracts,
Yeah.
but definitely we'll, always have them available.
Right, because during COVID, districts were given a certain amount and it was through ESSER funds or some way they were paid
You can
for.
pay for it through
Through,
ESSER,
yeah, through a certain contract. And I know a lot of the contracts ended in August of this year. So, yeah, that's something to do a needs assessment on if we're not using all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Great report. Thank you. Okay, move on. To financial reports, and Lance will read them.
Buckle up.
Okay.
We're ready.
All right, in the Citizens Bank, just don't have the digits. How do I do this? I should listen to start month out. 02036 fund, there's $3,591,627.60. In the US or Citizens Bank Fund 46, there's $56.15. Suicide prevention, $4,972.58. In the debt service account, there's $163,844.39. The American Deposit Referendum Fund, there's $7,894,045.36. In the 11 American Deposit Referendum Fund, there's $3,638,738.22. In the D12 American Deposit Debt Service Fund, there's $148,307.39, with a total account balance of $14,929,812.12.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Dave made the motion. Lance second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. And then we'll move on to the consideration of the consent agenda. We have 71 part-time and 6 full-time curricular modification requests for students to enroll in our virtual courses for 23-24 school year.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
That's made the motion. Dave, second. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the administrative reports. Student enrollment update by Tim.
We have 1,598 students in seats. We have 277 students in our virtual charter school, 37 full-time district residents in our virtual school, 131 part-time in our district residents, part-time virtual school. Then lastly, our open enrollment, we have 413 students open enrolled in compared to 121 out, a difference of 292 students. Lastly, I guess I'll mention our free and reduced lunch rate is actually as high as I've seen in 11 years here at 26.8%, which is still low and well below the state average, but it's crept up. It used to be in the low 20s and now it's at 26.8.
All right, moving on to the key work of our school board. We have consideration of the approval of 3-year library plan. Library media specialist, Jenny Franklin. Welcome, thanks for coming.
Hi, thank you. The library plans are a new thing. They've been around for a long time. This is part of the technology plan. But what's changed this year is the Wisconsin DPI is now asking districts to have it board approved and then uploaded into the DPI. So this was a great way for me, my first year here, kind of getting to know the library and how it's ran in the past, and then to be able to kind of make it my own also as we go forward. So first one is the library mission plan. This is just about how we support all students, trying to get them equitable access to information and technology, and having it a place where they want to come, another learning environment for them. The vision for the values, the next slide. This is part of the American Association of School Librarians, and what they're thinking that a library should embody. So I have to read all those for you, but also what we're trying to also have in our libraries. This is a framework that all Wisconsin libraries are trying to do. It has us all being able to have the same ideas, ensure that we're all having those same high pieces, so we can really focus on each part, but then also be able to see the entire vision as a whole also. And then with all the libraries doing them, it gives us common language for alignment through all Wisconsin libraries. So the next few ones are going to be each individual pie piece, kind of what we're doing already. I spent the first probably 4 months just kind of learning what has been done in the past, and kind of talking with some teachers and other stakeholders about what the library has been used for. So curriculum and instruction. Right now, one of my big ones is digital resources to help support teaching and learning, a lot of databases, some online technology things too. I do teach library skills for 5th grade and 6th grade digital citizenship also. And then I'm trying to collaborate with teachers to help them support student learning, go in, co-teach with them, and be another extension or being able to show them some ideas of what we have to help support and elevate their teaching. The next one is personalized professional learning. When we have in-service days, I try to, if there's something new that I have in bought or just purchased, I'll try to meet with all the teachers to explain what it is so they know what it is and what
how they can use it in their classrooms. One-on-one with staff, try to go in there again to help support and enhance student learning with their teaching through technology. And then just trying to keep them all updated on, we have many amazing resources. So letting them know what there is out there so that they can try to find time to figure out how to use it in their teaching also. The next one. This is just talking about our, our infrastructure, how grades 3 through 12 have a one-to-one device. We have a computer lab in the elementary school. At the high school and middle school, there are computers there. So students, if they need to print, they can come in and print from those. And then talking about what the IT does to kind of help support, monitor, and filter everything. Each year we're giving, each library is given money from common school funds. And so a big part of mine is being able to figure out where to put that money, how to spend it. So as of this year so far, books, obviously, I'm trying to get some new ones, some books that are just the kids, more databases, some technology. I bought some VR headsets to try to get to use in like science classes. There's some space ones in there that they can use. Trying to find stuff where I can just help support the learning of students. Community partnerships. This one looks kind of bleak, I'm sorry. But trying to get some working relationship with Hammond and Roberts Public Library. And then I participate in the CISA conferences. So Friday I get to go to the local library forum, meet with other library media specialists up there. Sometimes I feel like an island. No one else knows what I'm doing. So it's nice to be able to meet with them to kind of talk about different things. Data and privacy, like I said before, 6th grade is taught digital citizenship lessons. So I'll have a crew for about 37 days, and we kind of dig into all the different parts of digital citizenship, social media, digital footprint. And then with our student privacy is protected, we try to not showcasing what kids are checking out, and just kind of letting them be private with what they want to be reading and looking at. Space and time. So right now I split between all 3 schools. So I'm at the middle school every day teaching, and then at the high school to support classes once in a while, and then at the elementary also to help teach classes there too. So and then we trying to at our middle school, we bought some new furniture there a couple of years ago just to try to make it more welcoming, trying to get the kids to want to be in the library. Middle school and high school don't all love to read as much, so trying to make it more of a place where they just want to and come in at least and see what we have to offer too. Collaborative leadership, like I stated before, the CISA meetings, reviewing the district policies and procedures related to the school libraries, updating them as needed, and then working with the district administrators to promote resources and to make sure that everybody has access. So after going through all of these, then the next slide is going to be kind of my goals for the next 3 years, kind of what I want to really focus on. So trying to engage families and community members in promoting literacy in schools and community partnerships. More coaching of colleagues on the effective integration of our digital tools and the resources to support the student learning. And then becoming more involved in the leadership committees to help support the district and its goals. Like I said, with my first year, this was really nice to be able to kind of make this, to just kind of see where I'm at, to really take the time to reflect on kind of where I want to go to. Any questions?
In your conversations with teachers and kind of preparing, I don't remember for the first and second pie chart, but is there any glaring gaps in maybe what you have available to you to either distribute to the classes, or something that we don't have that the teachers are looking for?
No, I think we've been pretty good with having, it's more trying to find time to be able to figure out how to incorporate it in, or how to, when they're taking a lesson, how to throw it in with it. So I've been trying to meet with them like 5th grade. I've been meeting with Miss Hanson about her writing and trying to get some technology in it so the kids can do some coding while adding it to their story. So it's a little bit of both. And so it's more, I think Amanda also did an amazing job finding a lot of databases and things that we have already. So there's not really a discrepancy of things. It's just more trying to find ways to integrate it.
Good. How in depth is the digital citizenship thing with would you say 6th grade?
6th grade. Mm-hmm. So I work, there's like 6 main ones. So like a lot of times we talk about digital footprint. I try to teach them about how like what you do on social media is with you forever. Password security, talk a lot about that. Trying to find things that are credible. You know, you can't just look on Google and trust it. So they probably get annoyed with it by the end. The sad thing is it's really only that 37 days that I have with them. And then it's kind of like, oh. So I try to put as much in as I can in those time with them. But they're also at that age where they do have the phones and they do have the access to it. So they're able to have those conversations with me about it too. So I'm impressed with what we do get through and what we talk about and what they know and how they understand the importance of it too.
Yeah. Follow up in like 10th or 11th grade.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, my daughters in 6th grade has talked about that a little bit, so
Yeah, I actually have this sound.
thinking a little bit. Those kids.
You know, while Jenny's up there, and I think Jackie will probably jump in. Jenny's been an amazing addition to our district. I can't let her walk out of here. I know it's hard to do your first presentation. Nobody knows you, but she has been a very positive and awesome addition to our district. So it's great to have her on board for sure.
And I would just add, just always looking for ways to engage with staff and students, whether they're in your class or not. So it's really, she's a great addition to our district for sure.
Thank you.
Ditto that. We just went to dinner and she was telling me all about the classrooms that she was in co-teaching and integrating exactly what she was just talking about at the middle school.
High school or middle school gets furniture, you take her out the line.
And I ditto that, and would add that, yeah, you work well, with the staff, you listen, you're a team player, you understand our culture, our community, our staff, you're supportive, and, it's appreciative, especially in these times, with libraries and controversy. So that is appreciated as well. And you put a lot of work into this, and I just want to give you kudos and a shout out for that as well.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed working there and having the support from all of them. I still can't believe you said that. Yeah,
It is forever.
But no, I thank you. Appreciate it.
We're lucky to have you. Thank you. So we do need to vote
Approve it.
on the
Yep.
minutes.
I'll move to approve the 3-year library plan.
I'll second.
So Lance made the motion and Dave second. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to core agenda items. Consideration of final approval of the 24-25 summer school calendar.
So you have the calendar as an exhibit. Jackie's here if you had any questions.
Any questions?
Look.
Good man.
Very similar to last year's, I need to replicate last year's calendar, except for the dates obviously being changed to 2024. I don't even know what I said, but you need to go up to the microphone. Why am I not? Thank you.
Swimming lessons are in Ellsworth, correct?
looked into Baldwin, but it's just, such a huge price difference. It
Yeah,
doesn't make
Frankfurt
sense.
student is more than double. So I know that I get emails asking if we've ever looked into, and we've looked into it, and it's just, it costs more, you know, so. More conversations, I guess, with the neighbors. So Ellsworth has been great. Mr. Millar always leads the swimming lessons, and, you know, he knows everything about Ellsworth. He's got the buses, the kids, and the swimming lesson times. It's really great.
So once we approve this, then you'll send out information and the kids get to sign up shortly after?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
So, yeah, we get the staff interest, and then after spring break is when we'll have registration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we good? Okay, so we'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the school calendar, the summer school calendar.
I'll second.
You made a motion, Lance, second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to determining number of spaces available for special ed students for open enrollment purposes for 24-25.
So both 13B and C are similar, but they will need separate motions, but nothing new this year as we've done in the recent past. Administration is recommending not limiting any spaces for either special education or regular education open enrollment. And again, if you did one, you'd have to do the other. So they have to be kind of in tandem in that regard. And again, the main reason we would rather not do that is because of open enrollment. That's certainly a windfall, and that would handcuff us if we limited spaces. So that's our recommendation, to not limit neither special ed or regular ed.
Okay. So we do need a motion for B and C.
Individually,
Correct.
I'll move to approve core agenda item B.
To not
Limit
spaces. Yep.
open enrollment.
I'll second.
All right, so Lance made the motion, Dave second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion,
I'll make a motion to not restrict open enrollment for regular education students, 24-25.
Second that too.
Lance made the motion, Dave second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion regarding forming a food service RFP evaluation committee.
So every 5 years, DPI requires us to go out for bids for our food service program. So currently we have Chartwell's, and of course, as you know, Sandy is the food service director through them. But as required by law, because food service receives a large portion of their revenue through federal funding, we are required to do this process every 5 years. So on December 21st, we sent out the public notice to the Baldwin Bulletin, and that was in the newspaper for 2 weeks. And on January 16th, we had what's referred to as our pre-proposal conference. So the vendors are required to come to that conference, and we meet in here, go through any questions that have been submitted ahead of time, and then we go around and show them all 3 buildings and go through the kitchens. So we do that because we want to make sure that they know what they're getting into when they send us their proposal. Because otherwise they could just send whatever they think and it might not be very accurate. So that happened on the 16th. And then the proposals will be due on January 31st. So they will come in by 2 p.m. that day, and then we will open them. It's called a public opening. So if those vendors want to come and be a part of that, they can. And we usually just tally, like, these are the proposals that we received, and this was the dollar amount associated with it. So after that happens, we have a month between the 31st and February 29th to go through all the proposals with a fine-tooth comb score them according to the matrix that we set up in our bid document, and then recommend, well, first it has to go to DPI for approval, but then recommend to the board also for approval. So usually how we've done it in the past is we formed a committee. So I would be a part of that. Tim is usually a part of that. And then we ask for 3 board members to help us go through all of those proposals and score them so that we can make a recommendation for DPI.
Cause I'm nosy, what are the proposals include, or what differs between the proposals other than price?
Right, so a lot of it is price, right? Ours is pretty cut and dry because all of the food service employees, except for that director, are SCC employees.
Mhm.
So that's where in other ones you can get some wiggle room. But a lot of it is, you know, what are they gonna charge us for their management fees? What are they gonna charge us for, you know, things that they do have to cover, like the food service director salary and those types of things. And then it's also about things that aren't monetary, like what's the quality of the food that they're going to serve? What are some different things that they might be looking at that they could implement into our program that maybe we aren't doing now, or we could do something a little bit differently. So it really is a pretty involved process. And I mean, just like I said, everything across the board comes out.
So do certain districts, they bring in a team to serve lunch that don't have hired staff? Or-
Right, so some of them have the vendor that you choose, and they provide the staffing for the food service program instead of the district doing that.
Yeah.
And then they're responsible. So very similar to when we had like Marsden do our housekeeping. You know, they hired the people, they gave them W-2s at the end of the year. They had to worry about their leave time and sick time or whatever, you know, and then we took it over for housekeepers. Now that's our responsibility. So you can do it either way. It's just that we've always had them as SCC employees.
Thanks.
How many people came, or how many companies came the other day?
So we had Chartwells, and then we had Lunchtime Solutions, and I'm gonna get it wrong again, Tim. It's like SFS, I think. They're out of the Milwaukee area.
Okay.
They actually emailed me last fall, said they were interested, and they did come to that pre-proposal conference. So just from the feedback that I heard from the pre-proposal conference, I'm assuming we will get a bid from all 3 of them. So
She's looking for 3
so I need 3 people.
to meet sometime in February. Just probably be
Yeah.
one meeting, right, Jen?
Yeah, we can do it in one.
I'll go 3 weeks in February, so that might be tough for me.
I'll do it.
Here, Jen.
I'm gonna be gone a lot in February.
Okay. So check with,
So maybe Jeff or
I am, yeah.
Okay,
Well, I wrote my.
so Dave and Erica.
I didn't
and one
volunteer,
more.
I put myself on there. Whether you like it or not.
Can we vote on that?
No.
If we want, like, if we pick the week that we meet, I can do it. I just, unless we need it
Just
right
be
now.
one evening, I assume.
anytime between 2 p.m. on January 31st and I would say February, by the end of the day on February 28th.
So we got time.
Yeah.
Okay, from. Okay, put me in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And we can arrange a date. Maybe I'll look at Tim and mine's calendars, and then maybe I can send out an email. Or if you want to figure something
Wednesday, the
tonight.
31st, that evening.
Are you home?
Would that work that evening to be ready with the matrix? And
Sure.
it's not February.
I might work.
Oh, I better look at my calendar.
February, sure.
So we're saying January
31st.
31st.
Yeah, that's not gonna work for me.
Okay.
Yeah, babe.
Sorry,
What week works for you in February, Lance?
not the first one. Not the last one. The board meeting's 21st. How long do
Right.
we need?
Thank you.
I'm gonna guess we're gonna need a couple hours.
Then probably the week of the board meeting's the 21st, right?
Yeah.
Do we do Monday that week?
The basketball away at Ellsworth.
Yeah, so
Would 5 o'clock on the 21st work?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
board meeting night already? You just
Dave, does that work for you?
Yeah, that should be fun.
You can be done with work.
Okay, so 2:21,
We can order dinner,
5
a
PM.
working dinner, a working meeting.
okay.
Great.
Right, so you'll send an invite to us?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
fantastic. Should have tried more at the conference.
Yeah.
In Chartwell's, but I don't know if we ate at the other vendors.
No.
Dang it. All right, so we can move on to E, which is consideration of approval of building supervisor position.
So a little background on this. So currently, we have Greg Green's position. He's the director of buildings and grounds. We have a grounds supervisor position, and we have a housekeeping supervisor position. With Greg's impending retirement, looked at restructuring and making it just a building supervisor position, grounds supervisor position, and housekeeping supervisor position. But with that said, take some duties off of what is currently on Greg's plate and have the grounds and housekeeping do more duties. So they'd be more balanced in 3 supervisor positions, whereas Greg is overseeing, not only is head custodian of the elementary, he's overseeing all the buildings, all the grounds, oversees all that, all the supervision, the hiring, the ordering, purchasing, maintenance for the most part. And then specifically the purchase orders and the invoices, there's a lot of paperwork. So he's doing all that. And as you know, Greg, right, he just does it. And so anyway, we thought this is a good time to restructure. So with that said, we'll talk about the details of the salaries and in that in closed session. We can't talk in open. But the first thing we wanted to do is just approve those because it's technically a new position. It's director. So the director of buildings and grounds will become building supervisor. And with that said, that person would still be the lead custodian at the elementary, and then they would oversee the lead custodian at the high school, currently Jerry, and at the middle school, currently Kyle. And then just buildings, purchasing and ordering, buildings, maintenance, right, and et cetera. So that delineation and separation of duties is the plan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to prove that because it's a new position. And then if that's approved, then we would actually approve the person that we would like to hire for that. That's why it's down on the consent agenda.
Okay. I'll move to approve creating the position of building supervisor.
Okay, so Lance made the motion, Josh second. Any more discussion on that? All in
We don't have to create 2 more positions or?
No, because they're already
adding 2
they're
more?
already positions, board has approved positions, where administration can do the
You're just
changing
adding
of the duties.
responsibilities.
Correct.
All right.
Other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So then we move on to consideration of approval of the appointment of Nicholas Yoder for building supervisor position effective February 6, 2024.
And I'd like to add to that too, we have an intentional overlap. This person would be able to train with Greg for 6 to 8 weeks before Greg's, last day on April 1st.
So if we don't approve this, Greg has to stay.
You already accepted his resignation.
But this just falls here because we had to do that. We had to create the position first.
Otherwise it would have been up.
Okay. I'll move then to approve core agenda item F and appoint Nicholas Yoder to building supervisor effective February 6th, 24.
Second.
So Lance made the motion, Dave seconds. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to our second reading approvals, and we have G through P of all of the board policies.
I move to approve G through P.
Second.
So Dave made the motion, Lance is second. Any discussion on those? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We've got our first reading notifications. Don't have to vote on those. And that's Q through double A.
Number 30.
Wow. All right. Okay, so then we can move on to future agenda items. Any? Okay. Hearing none, we can say the upcoming important dates. February 21st is our next school board meeting here at 7 p.m. at the district office. So now we need a motion to go into closed session. And just whoever makes the motion reads what we're.
I will move to convene to close session per Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C. And then
Consideration of
Yeah.
approval.
Read on.
Aye.
Oh, it's I. Section I.
You have to read
You have to read it.
Consideration of approval of compensation for buildings supervisor, grounds supervisor, and housekeeping supervisor positions. Perfect.
Oh,
Six.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll second that.
So Lance made the motion and Josh second. So roll call.
Is it what here? Here.
Here.
Okay. All right, closed session at 8:28.
Jen, are you gonna send a reminder about that 5 o'clock meeting?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I know I'll forget.
This.